afternoon. Would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. My name is Rachel Smith. I am a Brit and I'm 42. I've got two small children and I run my own business, which is a technology company. I grew up in management consulting, but transferred to the startup in 2017.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about your move specifically and how did you prepare for that?
So the move for us was a kind of slow, drawn-out process. We actually decided on the house we wanted to buy in November of 2020, and we didn't end up moving until the end of March. And you know, you're sort of loath to prepare before that because there's so many things that can go wrong. So even though it takes a long time from getting an offer accepted on a house to actually moving in, everything sort of needs to happen relatively quickly. And if you're doing it for the first time, or you haven't done it before, haven't done it for a long time, then it can be quite daunting to make sure that you're doing everything you need to do in terms of, obviously, there's the physical packing up of your stuff, there's the emotional explaining to your children, pets who you can't explain to, all of that sort of stuff, just figuring out what's going to happen in the build-up on actual move day, and then as you settle into your new home. We were quite lucky, we weren't moving very far. We were just moving a mile down the road to be closer to my children's school and to have a bit more space after lockdown. I think a lot of people are in the same boat. We're using our house in a different way. The house that we were in didn't have space for both my husband and I to work from home. So yeah, we weren't moving far, but we were kind of changing the way we lived, I guess.
So something we keep hearing over and over again is that kind of no matter how much you prepare for your move, it seems that you always discover things that you seem to have forgotten about. So in your case, did you discover any sensitive documents or items that you had forgotten about?
So all of it. We thought all of our stuff's digitized, it's in LifeFile, right? But of course, you know, as everyone, we had stuff up in the attic, which we'd kept as memories that we thought, you know, this is much better digitized. We don't need to take boxes of photographs and books and old schoolwork and all of that with us. But also, particularly in sensitive information, we did have a filing cabinet, 2 drawers full of paperwork, which we just said to each other, we can't move this. And actually, when we went through it, we did dedicate sort of an afternoon sitting there on the floor, moving paper around. We realised that a lot of it was just delayed shredding. Like older than 7 years old, so not even useful for tax, and even stuff that was within 7 years old, we didn't need to keep physical copies if we had digital copies. In fact, when we sorted through everything, we went from, as I say, these 2 kind of big drawer A4 filing cabinet drawers to just, and I'll show you, this is what we ended up with what we needed to actually keep in physical copy, which, you know, so moving that was a lot easier than moving a whole A4 filing cabinet with 2 very full drawers. And so, yeah, it was a case of us being disciplined and going, right, this is old, why are we keeping it? Do we need it? Do we even actually? It's a lot of stuff. It was easy. There was old stuff was just like, right, straight in the shredder, fine. Then there was kind of the middle ground of stuff, which is like, it's within 7 years, so we might need it for tax. So perhaps we should digitize it and not take it with us. And then there's the stuff like passports and share documents and birth certificates for the children, things that are kind of an original copy that have got a wet signature on, and they're potentially the only real copy that exists. Like, right, that's the stuff we need to keep. That's what's in that file. So stuff we need to keep in one file, stuff we definitely want to shred in another pile. Then there's a pile of like yay big stuff, which we're like, okay, this is the stuff we need to digitize. Even going through the digitization process, we're like, let's not just move physical clutter into clutter on the cloud. So actually, when we went through that pile of stuff we wanted to put online, in fact, probably eventually put less than half of it online. And you realize, you know, it's stuff like warranty documents for the TV. Actually, we could find them on Google if we need them. Tech-wise, we did find an old hard drive that we'd had since kind of before we got married, and we're like, what's even on this? And then of course we couldn't, it was an HDMI cable, neither of us have got any way of actually accessing that through our laptops. It took us a while to kind of figure out what was on it. Then we couldn't then when we actually found a way to access it, we couldn't get into it, and we just, well, whatever's in it, it's obviously old. We haven't looked at it for 10 years. We've just been through winter in a lockdown. We haven't looked at it. We're unlikely to ever look at it again. It's like, when are we going to have that much time? So in the end, we just, my husband just reset it all, cleared it all down, and we sent that off for recycling.
So how did you specifically handle these sensitive items during the move, and what could some of the risks have been if these items were, say, lost or stolen?
Absolutely. So as I said, we sort of made sure that anything that was of value to us came with us in hand luggage, as it were, and also all of our technology. We made sure that laptops, phones, the test devices that I used for my business, I think, as I say, the removal men must have thought we were absolutely nuts. We kept carrying out laptop bags and tablets and phones, but because I run a tech business, we have a whole suite of test products that actually sit, since we've been working from home, we're sitting in my home. We were kind of obsessed with making sure that everything was locked down and secure. And in fact, we didn't come straight to the house because we bought a bit of a wreck. So we needed it to be at least professionally cleaned before we moved in. So we went to a hotel for a few days in between times. So again, we just made sure that everything that had any value to us was either with us in the hotel or locked in our car, because the risk of somebody getting hold of that, the tech or the physical paperwork. The tech is more to protect my business, but the physical paperwork, it would be so easy for somebody to just learn everything about us. And if it got damaged or lost, it's not even about necessarily people finding it. It's if it got damaged or lost, as I say, if we hadn't gone through and found the children's birth certificates, marriage certificates, those kind of things, while a lot of it could be refound, account details and things, there are some things that certainly couldn't be replaced. So we had our stuff insured while it was in transit, which cost us more than obviously our general contents insurance, but we made sure we got specific insurance to cover the period of the move. And the removal company that we used also have liability insurance to make sure that our stuff is covered while it's with them. But in these situations, we wouldn't necessarily know if say, some of our paperwork had been seen and looked at by somebody that shouldn't have seen and looked at it, but it still made it here. And then we had a problem with identity or credit rating further down the line. We wouldn't necessarily relate it back to the period in which we moved because the stuff got here. The risk of having physical paperwork lying around is obviously much higher than digital. But
many experts that we've heard from recommend scanners and shredders for moving. Do you agree with that? And do you think it's better to hire a shredding company as opposed to shredding yourself?
Because we have LifeFile, the app that I mentioned, there's a scanner inbuilt to the app. So it just needed my device, and I can just snap a photo of anything as it comes in or as I see it. And I'm like, I need to keep that safe, but not physical. And LifeFile is quite clever in that it will organize it for you. So it recognizes what it is. It uses Google image library to sort of recognize what the document is. A shredder, we have a sort of A4 one, which will take 5 or 6 sheets at a time, which in day-to-day life, we use all the time, even if it's just to tear off a bit of an envelope and just shred that bit rather than the whole envelope, or the whole letter, the bit with the account number and your address on, we'll shred that bit and not the rest. But because in the move, we were doing a kind of bigger, I forgot we had this filing cabinet, and it's, I wasn't going to sit there for the best part of probably 4 hours, burning the engine in the shredder, letting it overheat, doing 3 or 4 pages at a time. So we hired a disposal company, a kind of big garbage trash bin, which we put everything in, which was locked and then got collected by a secure shredding company for secure disposal.
It's estimated that some 60% of moves in the US take place during the summer. So what advice would you like to give, or what did you learn from your move specifically?
Packing some stuff ourselves, but not trying to do it all ourselves was sensible. And I think the conscious decision to not just take stuff and sort it out when we get here. Sort out what you can before you go, and don't bring stuff that you don't need, because honestly, it will stay in a box. And as I say, we found up our loft a box of stuff from when we moved in 11 years prior. If we haven't opened it in those 11 years, as I said, in winter in a lockdown, we don't need it.